2, 3, listen.
Welcome to the Brian for Mayor Digital Battle Bus. Welcome to Battle Bus Live. I am Brian Rose, and we are here live right now on the Brian for Mayor Digital Battle Bus. I'm super excited. Today we are touring the borough of Lambeth, and what you see behind me is not a green screen. We are literally in Lambeth. You'll be seeing a bunch of landmarks coming by, and I think that it's important for me to go to every single one of the 32 boroughs in this city to find out what's going on with you on the ground. Every borough has its unique challenges, and you need a leader that can get out there and find out what's going on with you. And today I want to talk about some of the challenges facing London and also facing you here in the borough of Lambeth. So I'm super excited. If you don't know much about Lambeth, if you're coming in from other places in the UK or maybe even from America or Asia, Lambeth is a home to incredible landmarks like the London Eye, like the Imperial War Museum. I remember my first visit there to see the V-2 bombers and the tanks. It's amazing. It's home to the South Bank Center, the London Aquarium, Brixton, incredible cultural hub, and of course Clapham as well. I've got friends in all of those places. So just want to say thank you, Lambeth, for having us. We appreciate you being here. But let's be honest, we were almost not here today because on Sunday at 10:49 a.m. when we were touring the borough of Southwark, we were stopped and surrounded by 10 police officers from the City of London Police that showed up in 5 police vans, and they detained me, they fined me, and they banned me from campaigning to be your next mayor of London. And we thought this was unfair. We were following the letter of the law. We were filming and campaigning in a COVID secure way. We had permits. We had approval by the council to be there. When they stopped me, I was literally filming a video to my phone. As much as you see, I was literally holding the phone out, and they stopped me. And we think that they were incorrect, which is why we sent this 5-page letter to the 3 major police commissioners here. And I've just posted this on my Instagram feed if you want to look at it. Our entire legal team has gone through the regulations, and right now we believe we are following to the letter of the law the restrictions around COVID, around the regulations. And that's why we are back out here on the road today, because we believe this is important to democracy, to free and fair elections that must take place on May 6th. We're very passionate about this. If you think about it, the current mayor of London has been unelected for the past 1 year because they postponed elections. This sounds a little strange. It sounds like things that are done in other oppressive countries, and I think we must have free and fair elections, which means all parties must be allowed to campaign, and we encourage all parties to join us, from Conservative to Labour to Lib Dems to Green parties, to join us and get out there and campaign, of course, in a COVID secure manner. By the way, welcome to the Digital Battle Bus. This is an incredible piece of technology, and it's 100% COVID secured. Every night, this entire structure is hit with antiviral fog. Everyone walking in the door is temperature checked. Hand sanitizer is used. We've got all the protocols, social distancing, and this is basically the same setup that's being used right now in the City of London to film video production. Something's happening with Apple TV right now over by Buckingham Palace. You'll see the production vans, and they are using the same protocols that we're using. So that's why we're curious why we can't be allowed to do the same thing. And that's what this letter is all about. And we've got one response so far from one of the commissioners that they've received our letter, and that's why we are proceeding today. Now, yesterday, our bus was stopped. It was pulled over by the Metropolitan Police, a different police force, which proves to me that this is a coordinated attack. And again, this feels very political to me. And when I brought that up, as you probably saw from the raw footage I posted on YouTube, one of the officers from the City of London got very irate with me and said, no, this isn't political. Let's not talk about that right now, which makes me really wonder. But you be the judge. You can go watch the footage. The video's gone viral. It's been watched hundreds and hundreds of thousands of times. We got coverage in the BBC, on the Daily Mail, and global coverage for standing up for your democratic right to choose. And that's what we're doing here. We think that democracy should be preserved and that free and fair elections need to go ahead on May 6th here for your next mayor of London. And that's why we're out here on the road. So again, super excited to be in Lambeth. Thank you so much for having us. We got tons of questions from people in Lambeth on our website. And if you want to ask a question for me, go to brianformayor.london/bus and submit your question. I'm going to be actually reading out a bunch of questions today. And whatever platform you're on right now, leave me your comments below because I'm literally going to read them out. And I want you to answer 4 questions for me. The first one is, what borough do you live in? And what question would you like to ask me? So type that in wherever you are right now. They're going to be literally coming up on my screen here and I'm going to answer it. Also, give me your honest opinion. Do you think it was right for the police to detain us, to define us, and to ban us from campaigning on Sunday? Do you think that was right? And thirdly, I want you to tell me, do you think that free and fair elections should be allowed to take place on May 6th and the parties should be allowed to campaign, of course, in a COVID-secure manner? And the last question is, do you think we need new leadership for London, new ideas, and we've got to take this city in a new direction? So thank you for those comments. Again, if you don't exercise your choice on May 6th, you're going to get 3 more years of the same thing, and I don't think anybody wants that. So I'm going to go to your questions now and find out what's going on. But before we do that, I want to talk about 3 very important issues. The first is knife crime here in London. It's at nightmare proportions. Second, I want to talk about our education system, especially here in Lambeth. The lack of access to technology of students in Lambeth is making this whole concept of digital learning impossible, really, and impractical. And it hits the lower income areas the worst because they don't necessarily have a spare laptop where they can get on Zoom with their classmates. I want to talk about that and how we need to get our children back to school immediately. And lastly, I want to talk about how can we get London back to work and give our entrepreneurs and businesses and our citizens a roadmap of how we can get this economy started. Again, if we strengthen the economy, we strengthen all things, and that's so very important. So again, I want to get to your questions. First, I want to talk about something very important, and that is that knife crime is at nightmare proportions. And just a couple months ago, there was an article that was posted in the Telegraph that said this, quote, Sadiq Khan criticized for tackling of knife crime as 100th teenager killed during his time of mayor. 100 teenagers killed during the current mayor's time in office. That is unacceptable. And the 2 London boroughs with the highest rate of gun and knife crime are Southwark, which where we were on Sunday, and Lambeth, where I am right now. So this is something that's very important to the citizens of this borough, and I take this very seriously. I did an entire 1-hour piece called Real Deal on my website, and I showed you all the statistics, all of the headlines, and you can see it clearly. Every single year the current mayor has been in power, knife crime has gone up and up and up and up, and he's doing nothing about it. Right here in Lambeth, it's actually been the scene of the most murders in London, 154 from the year 2000 to 2012. It's shocking. We've got to do something about it right now. And an article was written recently about this, and it said of the teenagers that have been killed in Khan's time, 2 of them were 14 years old, and 9 of them were 15 and 16 years old. I have a 16-year-old daughter, and it's just even hard to repeat those facts because it's just unacceptable. And I said this when I was at Tower Hamlets a few weeks ago when I was speaking to the people there. I said, when teenagers are stabbing other teenagers, it's not their fault, it's our fault. We've failed as parents, we've failed as politicians, we've failed as leaders. We've got to find solutions to that. And the article went on to say, quote, Khan said he would reduce crime only for London to witness an epidemic in gang violence, resulting in the senseless deaths of young people and a growth in the culture of criminality. A politician, Ian Duncan Smith, said Sadiq Khan is, quote, a man whose irrelevance is only matched by his incompetence when called upon to make decisions. And another politician said, quote, 100 teenagers have died since Sadiq Khan became mayor. That's 100 mums who can no longer hug their children or see them grow up. And I think about my wife, Mariana. If she had to deal with our teenage daughter being murdered from knife crime, it's just something that's hard to think about. And the article finishes by saying, quote, this is a shocking trend. Knife crime rose by 38% in the year prior to lockdown. Homicides are at an 11-year high, and Sadiq Khan's response is to defund the police by £110 million. And to finish out, the article says, it is a terrible indictment of Sadiq Khan. Londoners deserve a safer, fairer, and more affordable city. If Sadiq Khan won't deliver it, then he should step aside for someone who can, unquote. And I really appreciate the thoughts of that article, and I think it really resonates. And again, I think we're done with the talking, the explanation. There's always a blame. The current mayor is always pointing the finger at someone else. It's time to take responsibility and to take action. And I have real strong policies when it comes to tackling the knife crime in this city. We need to get more police on the ground, period. We need to better train our police, but we also need to invest in our communities. And that's where a lot of the problem happens, because our teenagers don't have other things that they can do. We need to invest in these communities and community centers, and I've got a whole detailed plan for that on my brianformayor.lund policy page. So now I want to go to your questions and get your thoughts. Again, if you're coming into us late here, answer these questions for me. What borough do you live in, and what question would you like me to ask when I visit? Second of all, do you think it was right for the police to detain us, fine us, and ban us from campaigning in this politically sensitive time? And do you think this is politically motivated? Third, do you think that free and fair elections should be allowed to take place on May 6th? And lastly, do you think we need new leadership and a new vision to take London in a new direction? We got some incredible points here. I want to try to read out as many as possible, but we've got Alexander Holmgren in Marylebone, Westminster, via the website that says, quote, Brian for Mayor, keep it up. You're a huge inspiration and are very motivational to many of us. We stand by your side on May 6th. Fingers crossed, rock on. Thank you, Alexander. I really appreciate you so much for that. We've got Landry in Islington that says, quote, what policies will you put in place to help entrepreneurs who have suffered from lockdowns? It's a great question, Landry. My lead policy as your next mayor of London is to get London back to work. We have to find a safe and secure way to get this city functioning again. When you strengthen the economy, you strengthen all things. You strengthen tax revenues, you strengthen our health system, you strengthen our transport system. There are safe ways to get this city back to work. Entrepreneurs need a roadmap out of this. Our government's not delivering on that, and that's one of the main things I will do as your next mayor of London. And again, there's more detailed policies on my website. Thank you very much. I appreciate that comment. I've got Carolyn here in Bromley via the website that says, quote, what do you propose to do to get our young people back into education? Hospitality, which Carol is in, and retail have been severely affected by these lockdowns. Will you open this up as soon as you become mayor to help our economy back on track? Will you open up care homes so our elderly and loved ones can feel love from their families again? I would also like to understand what your proportionate response to this pandemic will be, unquote. Carolyn, I appreciate hard questions. That's why I'm here. Let me talk about some of those. First of all, hospitality sector has been demolished by this lockdown, even though there only represents 3% of COVID transmissions. That doesn't make sense. These venues know how to keep your food safe. They followed all the protocols, and yet they get shut down first. We have to find a way for them to get back in business, our restaurants and our pubs and our cafes. I've talked about focus protection. And because of my show, London Real, that's been going on for 10 years, I've hosted over 1,000 conversations. We've got 500 million views of our programs. I got to sit down with Dr. Martin Kulldorff of Harvard Medical School. He's one of the authors of the Great Barrington Declaration, and he has a theory and a concept of focused protection, where we protect those elderly and vulnerable to this virus, but we get those that are healthy and safe back into work. If you look at the COVID deaths, only 1% of the 70-some, 80-some thousand recorded deaths are actually from people under 50 that are healthy, like me. The majority of death is for those that are elderly or that also have other ailments. So we need to protect those people, and that might mean still restricting some visits in the care homes, Carolyn, until we find out exactly what's going on. But we've got to get the rest of the country back to work, or we're going to have nothing to educate our children with. We're going to have nothing to propel our NHS. We've got to really make hard decisions now, and I believe it's cost versus benefit. The lockdown is actually costing us much, much more than benefit. We just can't see those numbers up front. One professor at Bristol University has said over 500,000 lives are being lost right now just because of the lockdown, because of the economic damage, and we need a leader that's willing to have those hard conversations, and I am willing to do that. So thank you, Carolyn. I appreciate that. A couple other comments, and I want to keep going with this broadcast. We got Mohib Jaffrey in Hertzmere via the website says, quote, what are your views on the handling of the pandemic? Again, I've talked briefly. I think we can find a safe way to get London back to work. This is about cost versus benefit, and it's about prevention rather than cure. We've got to really think about how we can invest in our health now to make sure that we don't become unhealthy and therefore have a higher chance of getting damaged by this virus. But no one's really talking about investing in our health. Again, I think we can find safe ways to get our economy back working. I think we're doing more damage than good right now with this blanket lockdown. We need a proportionate response to the virus. Unfortunately, our politicians, all they have is a hammer, so everything looks like a nail. And they have this blunt instrument, and they're just locking everything down. And it's causing, I think, much more cost than it is with the benefit. So a couple other questions coming in here. I've got Luke Big in Kent that says, Brian, we regularly make family trips to London for family days out. In December, we did an annual Christmas trip. However, the congestion charge was nearly $20 to drive into central London. This is before parking, which was another $25 to $45. This becomes very expensive. And Luke, I totally understand where you're coming from, which is why my policy of Get London Back to Work involves two major initiatives. The first is a congestion charge holiday post-lockdown, which means we zero out the congestion charge. Now look, I know we need less cars in London. I have green initiatives and I'm very sensitive about the environment, but we've got to get our entrepreneurs back. We've got to get our businesses back, which means we need traffic and footfall back in central London. It's so crucial. So for 6 months, no congestion charge so we can get people back in central London and safely spending money and doing what they love to do. The next thing I want is a 6 months business rates holiday post-lockdown, which means we allow businesses to get back and employ people and start commerce without having that taxation from the government that I know hurts businesses. I've spent 30 years in the private sector. I've worked in automotive, in aerospace, in finance, on Wall Street and in the City of London. I've worked in tech startup as the CFO. I've worked in new media with my 10-year London Real company and YouTube channel, and I've worked in digital education. I know what it takes to get business back. Our current mayor of London has never run a business in his life. He doesn't understand the challenges. And let's be honest, London exists because it was a center of commerce. Thousands of years ago, this place was occupied by the Romans and the Saxons and the Vikings. This was always a place of business. We have to remember that first. Everything else comes from that. A couple other questions here. I've got Muhammad Ali from Lambeth. First of all, thank you for having us here, Muhammad. I appreciate you. And he says, quote, I would like you to visit Brixton. Brixton is deemed to be one of the worst places to live in the UK and is a hotspot for knife crime. I want to see you speak to these people. And he says, in parentheses, in my opinion, the real people, as they have gone through a lot of struggles. If you can get these people to back you, it would help your image as well as your cause. From watching some of your videos, I can tell you might be better than most others. And if you manage to get the position of being the mayor of the capital and talk to the people with full transparency and stop lying or not answer certain questions, that may make the government look bad and you will have made the people of London and the nation proud. Good luck. Muhammad, I appreciate you. And honestly, that's the first time I've ever read your question, and that's what we're all about here, transparency. I am streaming live, answering your questions, going around to your boroughs, talking about your issues. When was the last time you saw a politician do that? Never. When was the last time you saw the current mayor do that? Never, because they like to be protected. They don't really want to deal with the problems. When I'm the next mayor of London, I'll be doing these broadcasts on a regular basis. I'll be talking to you on social media. I'll be answering these questions. I'll be finding out your challenges, and we're going to solve these problems together. I appreciate you, Muhammad, and I'm going to come to Brixton. I've spent a lot of time in Brixton. I love the culture of Brixton, but the truth is this. The mayor is not doing enough to fight knife crime. He's not doing enough to invest in the communities and to give our young children other options, including entrepreneurship. And the problem is all he does is blame the government. All he does is try to pass the buck. He doesn't come up with solutions. The same with lockdown. Leaders should bring us solutions, don't you think? They should solve problems. They should educate us. All the current mayor does is use fear as a weapon, and I don't think that's the way you lead a city, and I'm going to do something different. Last question here from Sharon Baker in Lambeth says, Brian, what is your position on 60 plus and over 60s Oyster cards? Will you reinstate their use before 9:30? I think we need to freeze fares for the elderly, freeze fares for the disabled. The mayor promised to do that in 2016, and yet 4 weeks later he raised fares. I don't think this is acceptable. We've got to give these people option for transport. We've also got to make sure that the TfL doesn't go bankrupt yet again, like it has on our current mayor's watch. I've got a whole plan for transport. It's detailed on my website. Please go there. We've got solutions, and I appreciate your comment. Look, there's a ton coming in from Instagram here, but I'm just going to shout out a couple right now. A couple reactions coming in from us being detained and fined on Sunday. But we've got Kristen Carr 75 on Instagram that says, wow, this takes away people's right to choose a leader. Disgraceful. He's talking about them stopping us from campaigning. We've got a couple other questions here. I got James Fuego on Instagram says, live in Kensington and Chelsea. What can be done about mental health awareness within young people? And again, I'm going to talk about education next. We've got to invest in our children now, and we've got to look out for their mental health because it's a real issue. So let me get to my second point. Again, I'm coming back to questions. So leave me your questions below wherever you're at. I want to hear from you and talk to you. But now I want to talk about education. So I have children at home. I've got a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old and a 16-year-old. And right now, they are being prohibited from going to school. My 16-year-old daughter can't go to school, and it's a very stressful time. You know, she's preparing for her A-levels. She wasn't allowed to take her GCSEs last year. She's worried and concerned about our future. And, you know, the Prince's Trust has put out shocking statistics saying that our younger generation has no hope for the future. Their mental health is at really, really dangerous levels. And we're in Lambeth right now. And recently, Linda Hayden, the boss of the voluntary group Lambeth TechAid in South London, said that the government's provision of laptops is quote-unquote a joke. She called the problems a quote-unquote national scandal and described the demand for laptops and Wi-Fi access as overwhelming. And this is an article that came out recently that said kids in poverty facing third lockdown without laptops. If we are going to take our children out of schools, which I don't think is the right thing to do, we've got to give them the technology they need. And boroughs like Lambeth, they need more of our support. Linda, I appreciate you for putting these issues front and center, which is why my digital first policy, which is on my website, means free Wi-Fi for all of the citizens in London. Unfortunately, a lot of our more challenged boroughs and our lower income boroughs struggle. They don't have necessarily Wi-Fi. They don't have the technology they need. And Ms. Hayden goes on to say, quote, "I'm outraged the government hasn't done more. We've had a whole year. It's been obvious this is coming. Their promises have amounted to nothing." But it's not just her. Tower Hamlets, a borough I was in just a few weeks ago, speaking before the national lockdown, warned 4 days ago that, quote, "it needs 10,000 more laptops for children who cannot attend school during lockdown." As this whole row of online learning continues to intensify. And again, another article recently from Sky News said school closures could wipe out a decade of progress for less privileged pupils. This blocking of our children's right to education is going to have long-term implications. It already has. We've got to find a way to get our children back to school, to do it in a safe manner. Again, it's got a lot of impacts for their mental health. It's got a lot of impacts for the economy itself. And we've got to really consider the long-term ramifications of denying them education, but also denying them hope for the future. And I'll tell you a quick story. When I grew up in San Diego, California, I was 8 years old. And my mom, she was an amazing woman. She is a single mother. She had 3 of us kids that she had to look after. And she said, "Brian, you can do anything you want to. You can be anyone you want to be in this world." And maybe it was naive, but I actually believed her. And the problem with today is when I tell my children that, they look at their education system. They don't have access to it. They look at what's going on in this world and they think, wow, how can I be anything I want if I don't know what's going on next? And that's the problem. Our government hasn't given us a clear roadmap out of this lockdown. They haven't told us when we're getting back to school. Even today, the Prime Minister Boris Johnson hinted it could be till the summer until schools are coming back, even though it's been proven that younger children are less likely to contract the disease and less likely to transmit it as well. We have to use the science. We have to have a proportionate response to the virus. Again, I think that there's a blunt instrument called lockdown, and it's the hammer, and all of our politicians see our nails, and that's all they use over and over again. I haven't seen even one solution that talked about how we can protect our elderly and yet get our younger people back to school and to get our healthy people back to work, and we need to talk about that right now. Again, I want to hear from you right now, so please type in your questions and tell me, what do you think? Answer these questions for me. First of all, what borough do you live in? And what question would you like to ask me when I visit you? Secondly, do you think it was right for the police to detain us, fine us, and ban us from campaigning? And do you think this is politically motivated? Third, do you think that free and fair elections should be allowed to take place on May 6th, and why? And finally, do you think we need new leadership, new vision, and new ideas to take London in a new direction? And I could have just swore we went by the Imperial War Museum here in Lambeth, and I got to say, I was right. Yeah, the team is just giving me, they're shaking their heads. I can see it out of the corner of my eye. You know, it's got those 2 big gun turrets that I think came from a battleship out in front. And, you know, this is bringing back memories. You know, I've been in London now for over 20 years, and one of my earliest memories is when I came here in the late 90s. I went to the Imperial War Museum. So much incredible culture. It really shows the British indomitable spirit. You know, this country has so much culture and so much history. London does as well. And it's great to be on the ground. And this is what I think You know, the police didn't understand when they stopped me on Sunday. They don't understand that I need to be on the ground. I need to be in your boroughs talking to you, even if it's virtual. I need to be listening to your issues and talking to you, and I really appreciate you for that. So again, Lambeth, I thank you for having me here today. There are 68,000 young people right here in Lambeth that are struggling with not having the technology they need to go to school digitally. They're struggling by not having those laptops they need. We need a mayor that listens to the citizens. We need a mayor that gets out of his, his top floor office in City Hall with his balcony and gets out here into the boroughs like Lambeth and gets out there into Tower Hamlets and Hackney and Barking and Dagenham like I have, and finds out what's going on with you. What are you struggling with? And let's have a real conversation in real time. No hiding behind press releases. No hiding behind those prepared statements that we see our politicians do. I'm here on the ground talking to you live. Let's have a conversation. If I can't answer your question, I'm going to find out the answer to it, and that's why I'm here with you today, and I appreciate you very much. So going now to check more of your comments coming through here. Again, I really appreciate that. We've got Cameron Taylor here on Instagram that says, Brian, I'm 16 years old. My iPad's falling over here because we got bumps from the buses here. Back to Cameron. She says, I'm on Instagram. Brian, I'm 16 years old, and I'm rooting for you. I'm struggling. I'm sat in bed waiting for 2 online lessons a day. Wow, Cameron, this really breaks my heart because you're my daughter's age as well. And Cameron goes on to say, it's awful and I'm struggling mentally. Thank you for standing up for us. Wow, Cameron. I feel you. I really feel for you, Cameron. You know, we're asking our children to stay home in their bedrooms, to go to school digitally. What are we going to do? Next, we're going to ask them to go to work digitally. And are they going to live their whole life digitally in their room? It's all because our politicians are not giving us a roadmap out of this crisis. And again, if you used a forecast to lock us down, why can't you use a forecast to free us up for that? So Cameron, I really appreciate you. I am trying to fight right now to get our children back to school. It's such an important part. Honestly, I want to get my daughter, who's 16, Gabriella, back to school as well. She's got to get back there and interact with her students in a real way. Digital learning, and I'm a master of digital learning. I've been teaching thousands of students around the world for the past 6 years. I've graduated over 5,000 students from my London Real Academy. I was on 2 hours with them last night, speaking with people all around the world digitally. But for our children, it's not the same thing. They've got to be in the classrooms, and we can do it in a safe way. Let's find solutions. Let's elect a leader that can find solutions as opposed to holding their hands up and saying, we got to lock down. I don't think that's fair. A couple more comments coming through here, which is great. We've got Emmett Metz on Instagram saying, you are the best candidate. Keep going. Thank you, Emmett. I appreciate you. We've got Sarah Sear on Instagram saying, thank you for standing up to these draconian rules. By far, you will be the best mayor of London. Please save this city. Thank you, Sarah. We're going to save it together. I'm confident. We got Elsie Penn on Instagram saying, I am in the States, have listened to London Real for 3 to 4 years. I wish you as much luck as your answers and resolutions to the current problem are spot on. Thank you so much. Everyone resonates with our policies. And I'll tell you why. I'm not part of the two-party system. I'm an independent candidate, which means this: the best ideas win. If the best idea comes from a conservative, great. If it comes from someone in the Labour Party, great. As long as it benefits the citizens of London, I'm in. And that's the thing. I don't have a party to answer to. I don't have hundreds of years of precedent. I don't have corporate donors. I don't even have a committee. The best ideas win. It's just me and you and us coming up together with the best ideas. So that's how we're going to move forward, and I appreciate you very much. Some great comments coming here. Again, leave me your comment below. I might read it out right now. We got Stravelin on Instagram saying the children are the biggest issue at this time. They need normalcy. Again, I couldn't agree with you. Let's give them a roadmap out. We got Darren Ryan on Instagram says, Brian, what will you do to assist small businesses? It's a great question. First of all, congestion charge holiday. Let's get more people back in London and get us back to work. The second thing is business rates holiday. I was in Barking and Dagenham on Saturday, and I spoke to, I think Ahmed was his name, who had an open air greengrocer, and he said, Brian, I pay £8,000 every year in business rates. It's killing me. He said, I used to have 300 customers a day. Now I have 80 customers a day. I said, that's why we're going to give you a 6-month business rate holiday so you can get back on your feet. He said, Brian, I want to employ 10 more people, 20 more people. I can't afford to. That's my plan to get London back to work, and that's one of the things that we're going to do for small businesses. We're also going to digitize the whole process of your paperwork to make sure that you can be active. We're also going to allow a street usage for retail and for restaurants free of charge from the council. We've got great ideas. It's all on our website. Again, we have the best policies in the business, better than even the incumbent mayor who's had 5 years to work on his failed policies. A couple more comments, and I want to get out to my final point here. We've got Clara Bell on Instagram says, we need more social activities for youngsters as well as adults. Not enough social venues left. Claire, you couldn't be more right. I've got a community first policy that means this. We reopen our community centers with corporate donation support. There is precedent for that. Jamal Edwards, MBE, former guest on my show, London Real, who was the founder of SBTV. You would have seen his videos on YouTube. He recently recharged his community center in Acton, the one he grew up with a £100,000 donation from Google. I think we can do the same thing from big corporations like Amazon and really put an influx of capital and energy into our community centers, and we can get our whole communities back on track and put community first. So it's a great idea. There's a couple more great questions here. I've got Shaq Prime 777 on Instagram saying, I'm in Southeast London. Great to see you. I appreciate you hosting us here. And the children have nothing to do, so what will you provide them? It's a great question, Shaq. We've got to get our children back to school, period. We've got to give them real education. We've got to give them hope. We've got to give them a roadmap out of this crisis. We've also got to introduce entrepreneurship and get our community centers funded so they're wonderful places to be. Imagine a community center where your grandma can go, your mom can go, your aunt can go, and the kids can go. And I'm not talking about some funny smelling community center, you know, that has a ballroom dancing class once a week. I'm talking about cooking classes, yoga classes, community support for housing. I'm talking about teaching children how to do entrepreneurship, doing video, doing audio, real interactive, great places to be. I'm a big proponent of this, and I think this will get us out of a lot of our crises that we face in our communities. A couple more comments here. I got Dylan JF Smith on Instagram that's created a new hashtag, and it's hashtag Camden for Brian Rose. Dylan, I appreciate you. I appreciate that comment. I live in the borough of Camden as well, so I appreciate you. Such great history in that borough, but again, it's suffering so much. I take a black taxi cab home every single night from my offices in Hackney all the way to my home in Camden, and I see all of the closed stores on Camden High Street, and it breaks my heart. We've got to get London back to work. That's going to strengthen everything in this city. It's going to bring our transportation revenues back. It's going to bring all of our businesses back. It's going to bring our mental health back. There is so much to do here, which is really, really important. And I've got another question just came in now here from Productivity Fails on Instagram that says, quote, is there any way to set up a debate between Khan and you? Let's win this thing. And you know, that's a great question. And so I'm going to take this moment right now and issue a challenge to the current mayor of London. You're probably up in your top floor office with the balcony in City Hall, and I'm going to challenge you to a debate right now. Come and debate me. You can choose the format. We can do it on television, on mainstream media. We can do it virtually. We can do it in person, however you want to do it. I challenge you to a debate. You choose the format. You choose however you want to do it. But let's talk about the real ideas. Let's talk about solutions for our citizens. And I look forward to seeing you for that debate. I could be wrong, but I have a pretty good feeling he's going to dodge this. But with your help, let's get him to do it. Let's go to his Instagram account. Let's go to his social media feeds, and let's say, Mr. Mayor, will you debate Brian Rose? We know he is the only candidate that can beat you. We know that you have to address his issues. Let's have this debate. And you know, whoever wins, let's get the best ideas to take London to the next level. That's what I want more than anything for this city. The only reason I'm running for mayor is because I can't sit by and watch this current crop of politicians run the city I love into the ground. And that's what's happening right now. And that's why I'm putting my business on hold, my broadcasting channel on hold, my family on hold, my personal life on hold for the next 3 years to be your next mayor of London, because I care about this city. This city has given me everything. I've been here 20 years. I've been a British citizen for 14 years. My children were born here, and I plan to be buried in this city. And I want to take it to the next level. It's time we make it a world-class city once again, and I know we can do it. When people hear my ideas, everyone wants to come on board, and I'm super excited. So look, let me finish up this live broadcast from the Digital Battle Bus. It's been great being here, but I want to talk about my final point, which is how we can get London back to work. And again, there's been a lot of great questions today from entrepreneurs saying, Brian, what can we do? What can we do? First of all, we must strengthen the economy. When we strengthen the economy, it strengthens all things. And I had a great guest on the show the other day, Luke Johnson, one of the founders of Pizza Express. And I've had countless numbers of entrepreneurs, economists from Imperial College. I've had people in the hospitality sector. I had Steve McNamara of the London Taxi Drivers Association, a union of 18,000 black taxi drivers. They all came to me and they said, Brian, we've got to find a way to get back to work. Steve McNamara said, my drivers are struggling from mental health. I take a cab home every night. They said, Brian, you're my first job of the night. You know, I can barely survive here and I'm going crazy at home. Got to find a way to get London back to work. And I agree with all these people. I had John Graham from the Theaters Trust that said, Brian, we can safely get our theaters back. I have a solution, but our government won't let us do it. I'm here to find solutions. And I believe that if we can give a timetable of how we get out of this crisis, we can allow our business people to start investing in the economy now. They need a roadmap out, and it's so crucial. And the truth is there are 6 boroughs in the capital right now: Newham, Haringey, Barnet, Brent, Hounslow, and Waltham Forest. They've all suffered a double whammy of the highest levels of furloughed workers here in the UK, and that's going to turn into unemployed workers unless we solve these issues right now with our economy. Again, this lockdown hurts the lower income areas worse than anything else, and it's the untold story, and it's something that we need to talk about right now. And Lambeth Council, where I am right now, recently an article says that it has, quote, one hell of a job coming, according to a leader there in the council, as it hears of a £42.7 million overspend following the COVID-19 response. We've got boroughs in this city that are struggling. And I'm literally on the ground right now in Lambeth, and they're suffering from a £43 million overspend because of COVID, and there's no end in sight. I really feel for these councils that are struggling, and that's why I'm going to every single one of the 32 boroughs in this city, and I want to hear your challenges and I want to offer solutions. But let's be honest, getting London back to work is the one move that will help strengthen everything I'm talking about. It's going to provide strength to our communities, to our families, to our transport structure, to our health infrastructure. It's going to provide even solutions to some of our knife crime issues. I have got 12 detailed policies that go in down to the letter of how we can solve these problems. But again, we've got to start with the economy, and that is the first thing we're going to do. So I want to go to your comments last. I'm hearing police sirens behind me, and honestly, folks, we could be pulled over at any point right now. They could stop us, they could detain us, they could arrest us, they could find me again. You know, it's difficult what we're doing right now, but we believe in the democratic process. We believe in free and fair elections. But the truth is we are ready right now to be arrested. I'm ready to go to jail right now if it means preserving your right to choose and your right for democracy. If you don't know anything about your candidates, then how can you actually have a free and fair election on May 6th? So we're taking our chances out here, but we're going to keep doing this every single day, going to every single borough of London. I want to finish off with some final questions to you, and I want to thank Lambeth for having us. Tell me, what borough do you live in, and what question would you like me to ask when I come and visit you? Next, do you think it was right for the police to detain us, to fine us, and to ban us from campaigning, and do you think the move was political? Third, do you think that free and fair elections should be allowed to take place on May 6th, and why? And finally, do you think we need new leadership, new vision, and a new direction for London? I want to go to your comments right now. I'm just trying to check and make sure we're not being pulled over right now. We're not. Seems like we're okay for now. But again, we know the police are watching us, but we, like I said, believe that we are following the letter of the law. Again, watch and go read my 5-page letter we've sent to all the police commissioners. You can go see it on my Instagram feed right now. But again, our legal team has said that we are doing the right thing. We are following the letter of the law. We have a COVID-secure bus. And again, it's your right to free and fair elections. So I'm going to these final questions from you and getting your comments here. Got a great one here. I've got the City Cyclist on Instagram that's saying, definitely the man for the job. That's Brian for mayor, and I appreciate you coming in here and saying that right now. Got some other great comments here. I got Ms. Deanne Smith that just said, volunteered to help you become mayor. So thank you so much. If you go to brianformayor.london, you can volunteer. You can share our pages. You can tell your friends about us. The truth is this is going to have to be a community effort. This is going to have to be a group effort. The only way we're going to change London is to do it together. I need you to share this video with your friends and family. I need you to comment below. I need you to tell them about the ideas that we have here. Tell them what we're doing. And I need your help to make sure that the police don't stop them and the politicians don't stop us from broadcasting from this digital battle bus. I've got Claire Bell on Instagram that says, my mom suffers from depression and she has been completely forgotten by mental health services. Right now, I'm struggling to help her. And the truth is, the mental health crisis, it's very dangerous right now. And the reason is because our government hasn't given us a destination. They haven't told us where we're going. It's first February 15th we're locked down to. Then it's Easter. Then the pubs won't open till May. And then today our prime minister said maybe schools are closed until the summer. That uncertainty is really bad for our mental health. We've got to stop that now. Our mental health is everything right now. A couple more comments coming through here. I'm going to wrap this up. We got Ronan Murray, 123 on Instagram, saying having 2 children and homeschooling is taking its toll. I noticed that my youngest child is suffering. Ronan, it's a great point. And any parents right now, please leave me your comments below. The stress of having to work from home as a parent and having your children having to homeschool at the same time, I mean, it's probably impossible. And yet our politicians seem to think that it's okay. Lockdown is not okay because it forces us to deal with situations that are untenable. It's not going to be viable. Every day it's very difficult to do this. We need a roadmap out. We need a safe way to get back to work. Last comment here from Shane Fox on Instagram says, since Khan has been in, there has been a lot less events and socials for schools and disadvantaged children. Would you bring back these events? Again, we've got to find solutions to get people back to work, but we have to do it in a COVID-safe and secure manner. So I am open for all those things, but let's look at the science. Let's make a proportionate response to the virus as opposed to this blunt instrument where we just lock down everything. I don't think that's the solution. And again, finally, I want to end on this note. Our politicians, they are there to innovate, to find solutions for us, but they're not doing this right now. All they do is they lock down, lock down, lock down. They use fear as a weapon to control us. It affects our mental health. It's ruining our economy. It's dwindling our savings, and it's time for a change right now. And so we need new leadership. We need to take London in a new direction, and we've got to do that together. I appreciate everybody for tuning in live with me here. Again, you can see we're literally out here on the road in your borough. I want to thank the borough of Lambeth for having us today. Again, such an iconic borough, so many incredible people here, but also so many challenges here on the ground, so many struggles, and it feels like a lot of you are being ignored by the current mayor. There's real issues here when it comes to knife crime. There's real issues here when it comes to affordable housing, and there's real issues here when it comes to the economy. During lockdown, you are affected much more than some of our more affluent boroughs, and that needs attention from the mayor. Again, with leadership, we can turn this around quickly. But if we don't take action, then you're going to get 3 more years of these current policies, and I don't think anyone wants that. So let's have free and fair elections on May 6th. If it's by post, that's fine. But let's make sure that all parties can go out there and campaign to make sure that you have your democratic right to vote. I call on the Labour Party, the Conservative Party, Liberal Democrats, the Green Party to all join with me and demand that we have the right to campaign and that we make sure free and fair elections come into place. I don't know what to do next. Maybe we have to call the UN in with their white helmets to stand on every corner to make sure that free and fair elections are happening. I know that's usually reserved for third world countries, but when they're stopping a candidate like me from going out there and campaigning in a COVID-safe manner, something strange is going on. We will not accept that, which is why we're out here on the road. We're putting everything on the line for you as the citizens. So I hope you've enjoyed this broadcast. Again, if you want to see more about this bus, come follow us on Instagram and YouTube. You can see our videos. I walk you behind the scenes. Again, share this video, subscribe to our channels, come to our website, brianformayor.london. You can volunteer, you can submit a question, but we're going to be coming every single day out to the boroughs and see you. I appreciate you so much. My job as your next mayor of London is to listen and to serve you. That's it. My job is to solve your problems every day. I promise you it will be transparent. My YouTube channel stays open. My Instagram following with millions of people stays open when I'm your mayor. We're going to be talking every day, and I'm going to be held accountable to you, unlike the politicians of the past. This is a new wave. This is a new deal that we're doing here, and it's a new relationship between politicians and citizens. I honestly think we are changing the game right now when it comes to politics. We're going to show every city around the world that there's a new way to treat your citizens, and look at what they're doing in London, and wait till they see us get London back to work. Wait till they see what we're going to do with housing. Wait till they see what we're going to do with crime. Wait till they see what we're going to do with our transport. We are literally going to change the game and lead the world when it comes to getting everything back. And that's what I want to do. So thank you so much. I appreciate you. I hope you've enjoyed this. And we'll be doing the same thing here every single day until we get the change we need. I'm signing off. This has been Battle Bus Live. I appreciate all of you, and I will see you on our next broadcast. Thanks.